So today G located and went back to the house and found out some stuff and took some pictures. I've included all the photos he sent to provide a sense of the house. Seeing them gave me chills, despite it being daytime and a clear blue sky. So after I posted the story about exploring an abandoned house last night, I received a lot of messages suggesting I investigate further in order to find out about the history of the house and see its current state. I messaged A and told her about it and that I really wanted to find out more about the place, despite my lingering fears after that night. She was absolutely like, "Fuck no, I want nothing to do with this. Do not go there." So I found G on Facebook and messaged him about it, basically saying, "Do you want to go back this weekend during the day and check out the house?" He got so excited and said he'd been thinking about going back and was willing to try and find this place today without me, as I was working, and also wasn't sure how I felt about going back. He said he would try and take photos, and so we used our combined memories of where the park was to direct him to the house. So this morning he drove an hour to the area where the house was and called me to tell me everything that happened as he was making his way home. So first of all, he said the whole park is really different now, and there's a huge playground and picnic area, and there were heaps of people there. The park is also much bigger and now runs alongside the house, as well as behind it. When he found the house, he was shocked. There was a couple living there now. The stone wall used to surround the house is completely gone, and there's a wire fence, which literally is all that separates the house from the park now. And a tennis court has been built behind the house, which was where the back garden was. The house and garden itself is very different because of the tennis court. The actual garden is tiny now, and it seems they demolished the back rooms and built a small outdoor area thing. I noticed in his pictures, it seems they used the parquet flooring to tile the outdoor area. There are still some of the statues, it seems, and the house is still the same yellow. G was able to walk around to the front of the house. He got one photo of this before he was noticed by a woman who was gardening in the front garden. To save his own butt, G called out, "Hello," and then went on to say he liked the house. But he thought it was abandoned, and managed to get her talking and found out the following information from her. She said they, I assume they mean her and her partner, only bought the house 5 years ago. Apparently it was built in the 60s. This surprised me. I would have guessed it was much older, by a very wealthy family from overseas who were planning to move over here but never did. And then it was empty for about 15 years. While they were looking to buy the place, their realtor told them a family lived there for a year in the late 80s, but moved away and tried to sell it. But for years they couldn't, so it was empty until this couple saw it and fell in love with it because it was super unique, and then proceeded to renovate it. G then asked the woman about the statues, and she said they were from the original place, but she only kept some of them because a lot of them were creepy, in her own words. He asked her if they'd kept anything else cool that was there when they bought it, and she said they had found a lot of bizarre furniture in the house, which they had gotten rid of straight away. And G said she seemed a bit disturbed by the question. He then asked her very forwardly if anything creepy or supernatural had happened in the house. And apparently she sort of laughed and said no, but seemed really disturbed and was clearly not telling him something, and kept looking up at the front window during this part of their conversation. He said he absolutely thought she was really acting uneasy, like she was being watched even. He asked if she had kids. I don't know why he did this. Maybe making conversation, but it wasn't very subtle. She suddenly seemed really upset and became very cold towards him, and said it was none of his business, which is fair enough. And when he asked if he could take photos and look around, she said no, and watched him walk away for ages. He looked back, and she was still watching him. He ducked behind a tree and looked back, and she stood there, staring, for like 5 minutes, before hurrying back into the house. His theory on the kid reaction is maybe they had a child and it passed away. And he thinks the nursery we saw is somehow related to this. He also said he's just so sure some weird stuff must have gone down in that house from the way she was acting. He said even though it was renovated, broad daylight, and there were people around in the park, that he felt incredibly uncomfortable being near the house. And it still gave him a really deep sense of dread, especially approaching the statues for photos. He said they were definitely the same as that night, but not twisted and wrong looking. Not as much, though some he couldn't see their faces, and that something was really off about that woman and the house. He didn't even want to look at the photos to send them to me because he was so on edge and really, really hated being there. He messaged me not long and was like, "Fuck. I'm so scared, I'm going to sleep with the light on tonight," and has been on edge and jumpy since going there. And he kinda regrets it. I haven't told A about any of this, so I really feel odd right now. On the one hand, I feel better that the house is inhabited now and has been renovated. Knowing those horrible statues and paintings are gone, more or less, is calming. But on the other hand, there's still so much we don't know about it. And writing about this, finding out more, has really made me want answers. Like, who was it who built this house? And why did they never live there? It seems very odd to me that you would spend a lot of money building this big house and then just not live there. Like, something big must have happened. The oddest thing is that a family lived there for a year and then left. I find that very strange, and it clearly indicates something happened that was really bad. They moved somewhere else even though the house didn't sell for decades. Like, if they had kids, maybe that's related. It would be bizarre for the family to have left behind all those really disturbing art and statues at the house. And all those toys in the nursery. If it was them, They must have been absolutely bizarre and possibly dangerous people. But if it wasn't them, I guess maybe it was a squatter who had very bad mental health problems. The nursery is the worst to think about. I really hope some children weren't raised in that house by an absolute psycho, and that the family left the crib and then it was painted black. The room was decorated so horrifically by some random crazy person or something. That room truly seemed demonic that night. Anyway, here are the photos G took. These aren't particularly creepy if you don't know the story, but they gave me absolute chills and really took me back to that night mentally.